Hello, everybody. My name is Nathan, and this is the psychological effects of video games on male individuals. The initial thought bubble: are video games truly harmful? The current stance on video games. Many people consider the video game world a waste of time, another form of entertainment, an inconvenience to anybody who spends too much time on it, and a medium that can potentially harm cognition. It's particularly hard to avoid this topic as the age of online social media, the internet, and a number of video game platforms are accessible to millions. There are currently 2.5 billion individuals in the world who play these games, and the question of addiction and their dangers of video games are becoming more prevalent. The moral panic theory. The moral panic theory is important to understand because it represents the ideological stance that society has on kids who spend a considerable amount of time playing video games. The theory states that a certain group of people, in this case people who play video games, becomes a threat to society's values and their interests. This applies to the topic because it magnifies the idea that society as a whole already accepts the idea that kids and adults who spend time on the controller are a threat to society, and even the players are conscious of that idea. My personal perspective. I grew up with my brother and my cousin, and they each had their number of consoles that I would spend most of my after school time playing. There were a lot of problems going around in the house as a kid. I felt extremely overwhelmed and most of the time lonely. Video games were my way of escaping into a world that brought me joy. As a result of relying too much on these games to help me cope, I found myself to be very antisocial, non talkative, and isolated myself from people every chance that I had. But also, video games were stimulating, they helped me understand my place, and it was genuinely a place to release stress. A number of findings include that video games have no effect on the creativity of a male individual. It has no effect on the motivation and engagement levels. There is a change in detection abilities, which is increased. There are higher amounts of impulsivity exhibited from boys as opposed to girls, and the level of addiction is based on a certain amount of time spent playing video games. For example, 3 to 4 hours a day. Uh, Do video games cause aggressive behaviors? An experiment conducted in Iowa State University attempted to find the effects of reward and punishment on aggressive behavior. Participants played one of three similar race car games. One rewarded violence, one punished it, and one had no violence. The participants played the game on these three platforms, and their systolic blood pressure, which is basically the pressure in your arteries during the contraction of your heart muscle, which is used to measure aggression, uh, which is used to determine aggressive behavior. The findings concluded that people who were rewarded running over pedestrians displayed higher aggressive behaviors and continued to exhibit the behaviors in order to keep getting rewarded. The people who played the nonviolent game exhibited some kind of hostile emotion when losing. The results determined that participants who were rewarded playing violent video games increased hostile emotion and aggressive thinking, while punished individuals displayed hostile emotion but no hostile thinking. What do these findings mean? The findings debunk a few video game misconceptions, prove that spending too much time on the controller means that people are more likely to become addicted to the game, and that aggressive behavior results from the type of game that is played or whether or not they are rewarded for displaying violence in the game. To be discreet, video games contain both benefits and detriments that make it difficult to take a solid stance. The best way to control the negative effects is by monitoring the type of content, restricting playtime, restricting the number of platforms an individual can interact with. My creative artifact. This creative artifact displays a child playing a video game. Happens to look like me. One side of the uh, displays him kind of being trapped in this world and just enjoying the fact that it's helping him stimulate his nerve cells or just control himself. And another one is just a bunch of chaos that basically brings down the person as he's looked at upon down as a person that doesn't necessarily achieve anything. A concluding thought: are video games truly harmful?